Welcome everyone to Rise Up Together tonight. I'm your host, Rachel Freed. We've got a great show lined up for you. Our theme today is Break Chains, and our Bible focus comes from the 15th chapter of the Gospel of Mark. Our focus text seems filled with darkness and gloom. Jesus is on the cross and all seems lost. Jesus reminds us that not all is lost. Rather, because of Christ's death on the cross, we can look at things differently. We are reminded to stand in solidarity with our brothers and sisters who are feeling broken and remind them they are not alone. Throughout this week, we've been building on our own stories and hearing the stories of others. Tonight, with the city of Detroit, we have been rising up to proclaim our story. How might we take the story of Detroit home with us? How might Detroit's story influence our story? How have we already made Detroit part of our story? For today's show, we talked with Erik Karlsson, co-team leader for Proclamation Story. We also sat down with Todd Perkins, operations co-team leader and native of Detroit. Michael OCallaghan visited with us from Detroit Metro Convention and Visitors Bureau. Michael talked about how the gathering impacts Detroit. So don't go away, we'll be right back with more Rise Up Together tonight. Our Rise Up Together Tonight reporter, Nicole Lyons, interviewed Todd Perkins, co-team leader for operations. Todd is also from Detroit and talks about how the gathering impacts the city.
Thank you, Rachel. I'm here with Todd Perkins, ELCA Youth Gathering Director of Operations. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. How are you, Coco?
Doing pretty well. So you work a lot with the gathering, but what do you do outside of the gathering?
So I'm a PhD candidate in electrical and computer engineering at Oakland University.
All right, so you keep kind of busy.
Very busy.
Very busy.
ABD,
All right.
as we say, all but dissertation.
Okay, well, very good. So as a resident of Detroit, what are your thoughts on the gathering being here?
So I'm excited and nervous. I can see the impact that it's going to have on the community, and I'm excited for a bunch of new people to experience my city, and I'm a little nervous that the sides might not get along.
Mm-hmm. And can you talk a little bit more about that? What do you mean by not getting along?
Well, Detroit is going through a huge transformation economically and culturally, and so as a predominantly African American city and the gathering being predominantly European descent, that I'm excited that they're getting together, and I'm just not sure how that's going to go.
So what can the gathering participants do to kind of ease that transition and kind of just be as courteous as they can to Detroit?
I think that they can be themselves. We've seen people that have tried to be courteous, or people that have tried to say and do the right things, and that usually, them not being authentic usually comes through. So just be authentic to who they are.
All right, good advice, thank you. So what does the gathering mean to you personally?
So the gathering is a chance for me personally to contribute to my hometown's turnaround, and just to make where I live and sleep every day a better place.
Okay, and how have you seen how have you seen the gathering impact Detroit both before and during the gathering?
So one of the things that I've seen that's very tangible is the churches here have been working together for the last year or two on making the gathering a success, gathering resources, gathering needs, opportunities. I'm seeing a lot of volunteers that I hadn't seen in a while, and so just kind of bringing our community closer together.
All right, and how have you brought your outside influence of what you know about Detroit and your background and your history into your role as gathering operations?
I'm the co-team leader of operations. So I'm the foodie expert, and I let them know where to go to get the best meals that are not on Yelp. That's what I do.
All right, and do you have any suggestions for food? Because everybody's always looking.
Lafayette, Coney Island is so much better than American. Don't fall for the hype.
Okay, all right, perfect. So what sort of change do you hope to see throughout the city?
So I want to see that the people in Detroit are more open and believe that we're part of a larger community, and that the work that is started here continues with both insiders and both Detroit residents and non-residents working together to make our community better.
All right, thank you so much for being with us.
You're welcome.
Back to you, Rachel.
Proclaim Story provides an opportunity for synods to join together on a designated day and location. God has a story. God's story is a love story, and all of God's people have an important role in this story. Through storytelling, music, Bible study, interactive learning, and worship, participants will dwell in God's story, begin to articulate their own story, engage in each other's story, and be sent out to proclaim that Jesus is good news. Here are some highlights from Proclaim Story.
God's story is full of twists and turns. You've got everything in this story.
And part of my story includes, well, I've been a Lutheran ever since I can remember. My mom was the one who dragged me out of bed for the 8 a.m. service.
Our Rise Up Together Tonight reporter, Nicole Lyons, interviewed Erik Karlsson, co-leader for Proclaim Story. He tells us how people can take the experience of his story home with them.
Thank you, Rachel. I'm here with Erik Karlsson, Proclaim Story team leader. So not many people get to know the behind-the-scenes people at the gathering. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do outside of the gathering?
Absolutely. I'm husband to Beth. I am dad to Greta and Ben, teenagers, and I serve as assistant to the bishop in the Southeastern Iowa Synod.
A lot going on. What is your role here at the gathering?
I am the co-team leader for Proclaim Story.
All right, can you tell us a little bit about your team members that you're working with?
I work with a great team. They are from all over the church, across the country, and they have a variety of gifts that lend to this team very, very well. We've got rostered leaders, we've got young adults, we've just got a great crew that I'm very, very honored to work with.
All right. What is the Proclaim Story Day? What's that all about?
So Proclaim Story Day is the day that youth and adult leaders come together with others from their synod and have a day full of Bible study, storytelling, and worship. 3 hours in the afternoon, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
All right. Sounds like an exciting day.
It is.
We're all involved.
We hope so.
All right. What went into organizing and putting this day together?
Almost exactly 2 years ago, we started meeting as a team. And we first had to think about how do we connect to this theme, Rise Up Together. And also we knew at that time that we were focusing on the Gospel of Mark as the foundation scripture for the gathering. And we started reading the Gospel of Mark in the very first verse of chapter 1. is the beginning of the good news of Jesus Christ, the Son of God. And we stopped right there, and we came up with this phrase that Jesus is good news. And so that formed our whole curriculum and the celebration of the day. And so from there, we just started to develop all the different elements of the curriculum of leadership for young people, hopefully, for music, for worship, for the afternoon.
What can participants expect during their Proclaim Story Day?
They can expect interactive learning, engaged with people who are leading from the stage, who have been given the resources and tools for this Bible study, and a pretty exciting dialogue about God's story and your story and my story. And we want them to be able to walk away with the sense that Jesus is good news and that they are a very important part of God's entire story.
What are some ways and tips that participants can go home and share those stories?
Yeah, first of all, start telling their story, which isn't rocket science. It starts with telling a little bit about who they are, where they've been, what's important to them, what are their struggles. One of the things that we do in the curriculum through the Proclaim Story Journal, which is our main source that will be a takeaway for them, is to fill out what we call the lifeline, which starts from the beginning of their life till now, highs and lows, and to map that out, just find ways to simply start sharing their story. Sometimes we are self-conscious or don't think anyone really wants to hear our story, but we do. We're people. We need to hear each other's story. So just start with family members, close friends, and then maybe that will move into the kid that you don't know very well at school, of just sharing your story. Then we hope that there's an open door to maybe starting to talk about God's story. And again, what does that mean from the beginning of creation, or some of those common stories that we might know that we can talk about with each other?
So last question, kind of a fun one. If you could be any animal, what would you be and why?
A giraffe. A giraffe. And I love giraffes. I've actually had a chance to visit Tanzania and go on safari and see these beautiful creatures. I think they're, I love how calm they are, how graceful they are. They're just a majestic creature to me. So.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us, Erik.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Nicole. Here are some highlights from the week so far.
I've never met these people before in my life.
Yeah. We're at the Gleaners Food Bank sorting sweet potatoes and cereal for the less fortunate.
For our hungry neighbors.
It's amazing. It's a really good feeling that we can get out and help people in need and help the helpers.
Jesus is. This is my body given for you.
This is not a city attempting to transition into another city. It's just Detroit. It's churches and old buildings that lean like drunk lovers but still open every Sunday for worship. It's Coney Island hot dog and Faygo pop on the days when you want to feel like you were the only one told a secret. It's what up, though.
We'll have more Rise Up Together tonight after this.
Pastor Obvious here, reminding you that while you're at the youth gathering, you should always wear appropriate footwear. Here's an example of appropriate footwear. Here's an example of inappropriate footwear.
Thanks, Pastor Obvious.
Our Rise Up Together Tonight reporter, Nicole Lyons, interviewed Michael OCallaghan. Michael shared with us the impact the gathering has had on Detroit.
Thank you, Rachel. I'm here with Michael OCallaghan, Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer for the Detroit Metro Convention and Visitors Bureau.
Right,
All
very
right.
good.
So what does that title mean? What do you do?
I'm the number 2 person at the Convention Bureau, so I'm responsible for the operations of the organization, and I do a fair amount of stuff like this, talking to the media and working with our hoteliers, etc. The Detroit Metro Convention and Visitors Bureau is the oldest convention bureau in the world.
Wow.
It was formed in 1896.
And what kind of a change do you expect to see or hope to see throughout the city as the week progresses?
Well, first, as I've mentioned to others, Detroit and any cities in the future is very fortunate to have ELCA come to this town, or an organization like ELCA. I mean, the idea that you've got, over the next 3 days, you've had 10,000 people going out into the community to do charitable acts, whether it be working with Focus Hope or working with the Greening of Detroit or many other organizations, food banks, etc. That's a remarkable gift to the community. And, everybody in your audience who's associated with the ELCA really should be congratulated and feel extremely proud to have been a part of that, because it's unheard of. I mean, 10,000 people a day for 3 days going out into the community. It's mind-boggling.
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful, beautiful thing.
All right, and what are your thoughts on the gathering being here in Detroit?
It's great. Just the amount of life that's on the streets with people walking around in the T-shirts, the excitement, the amount of activity. It's a wonderful thing for a community. We believe that we've got a great story to tell, and that we are, in working with groups like ELCA and others, that we're able to dispel some opinions that have existed about Detroit.
So we have people here from all over the country.
Yep.
Viewing our program and interacting with Detroit. What would you like them to know about Detroit?
Well, I think that being here, you're already learning that this is a much friendlier, cleaner community that is going through a significant rebirth and has a really great future. The reality is that Detroit, as a community in the early 1900s, was the most successful community in the United States. The Detroit Institute of Arts, and I know many of you have been encouraged to go to the DIA, has one of the top 5 art collections in the United States, maybe the world.
All right, thank you so much, Michael, and we look
My
forward
pleasure.
to hearing more about Detroit in the coming months.
Thank you.
Back to you, Rachel.
Thanks, Nicole. That's it for tonight. We hope you've enjoyed our show. Tune in tomorrow morning for a special edition at 8:30 a.m. for more interviews and highlights from the week. On behalf of everyone at Rise Up Together tonight, I'm Rachel Freet. Thanks for watching.